Hey, I'm Pops, and I want to talk to you about Vikram. Vikram is a film that actually came out earlier this year, and I was not engaged in Indian cinema at that time. This is a Tamil film. It's a little bit different than the Telugu films that I've already become very attached to and enjoyed. However, I enjoyed Kaithi, which is now connected to this film in what's being called, well, Lokesh is the director, and it's like the Lokesh cinematic universe, and it is a brilliant experience. Man, this is fantastic. I'm enjoying this journey very much, and all that happened in this film was making me want more. So I want to talk about the film, talk about some of the positives and negatives, talk about how Americans may or may not like it, those kinds of things. So Vikram is an interesting project. Kamal Haasan, basically, to me, I could be wrong if I've misconstrued something, sounds like connected with Lokesh, and they created sort of a sequel to a previous Vikram film that he was in, and then Lokesh's Kaithi, which just came out, right, just a couple years ago, right, which I enjoyed. And I said, well, that you had to see that one first, right? So I did. I saw that one first. I really liked it. So what they did was they continued the story, and then through the unraveling of some of the mysteries, we introduced characters from Kaithi. I think I said that wrong a minute ago. I think I said Kaithi. I don't know what that was all about. Kaithi. And set it up for even a bigger sort of climactic film to follow. So Vikram sets around a series of murders that's happened. And, you basically have this film starts with like this, dance music sequence. And I'm like, I don't know what's happening here. And then you have like, oh, the person's not paying attention. They drive into a tree. So it's like, oh, okay, well, this isn't going to be like, it felt like a Bollywood scene, but it was really just a person daydreaming about singing and dancing. I actually like that. That was actually clever. It's a good way to put the singing and dancing in there, but not letting it derail your film. Hint, hint. That's what Americans will be okay with, right? Anyway, so Karnan is the main character that Kamal Hassan's playing, handcuffed, and there's just basically this little thing, basically like knife in the chest, grenade goes off, blows up, and then you have Vikram, the title. This film feels very much like a Quentin Tarantino movie. If you like Quentin Tarantino movies, Kaithi and then into Vikram, you're really going to enjoy the journey, because it starts with a lot more of like, chase sequences, and like you're into like real life and villages and that kind of thing with Kaithi. You move into this, and now you're really into like drug trafficking and more like police work and solving crimes. And then it kind of twists into like crazy action and awesome stuff. So Stephen Raj was a character that was introduced in Kaithi, kind of a puppet master behind the scenes. He is murdered. And there is also another character that is murdered as well. And Amar is this, he's the character there on the far left. This guy right here. He is the police officer. He runs a group, which is basically the modern Black Ops Squad. We don't really know much else about him. We just know that's what he's been brought in to do, to investigate. Obviously, the guy in the middle is Karnan. And then over the right, we'll get to him in a minute. He's the villain. And basically, Amar has been tasked with trying to figure all of this out. And you start to kind of there's a lot of connecting of the dots of Karnan leading this like very strange life. He didn't fit the mold with like all the ties to the police and this drug trafficking bust that the police had accomplished. He starts figuring out this guy, there's stories, well, he was smoking pot and he was going to a brothel and he was doing all of these different things, but it was very contradictory to the rest of his reputation and what people saw. And you see some different things with Amar. You get little things where, Karnan might be drunk, but, he's beating up people that try to take advantage of him, right? And you get little pieces, right? And there's little lines along the way, right, where you just get great things. Like there's a gym story. They're in a gym and he's interrogating the guy, trying to find out more about Karnan. He's like, there's no body that was found. It was only a leg. And I'm like, what? That's what happened in that grenade explosion? They only found a leg? So there's a great scene with Amar where he's at the brothel. He's asking this mistress, what did he do whatever. And it was like, oh, it's all fake. Like he didn't actually stay with the lady. And he was basically outside the window. What was he doing? So you have this unraveling of this mystery, right? Meanwhile, you have them trying to unravel this cartel situation and trace things back. And that's where we get to Sandhanam. And Anyway, I'm going to call him Sandy. That's the guy on the right. Sandanam, which is Vijay Sethupathi. Sethupathi. Let me tell you what, dude was freaking great. He's a heavier dude, but he seems like he's like an action star in this. He's just quirky and weird enough with his gold tooth, and he's got a bunch of wives, this massive family. He has this weird drug thing that he does. He's beating on some guy just relentlessly with a hammer. I mean, this is all very good. It is very dynamic filmmaking. It is not fast paced at this point. This first half of the film is a little bit slower, but the character development, letting you kind of really get attached to really even the bad guys. You start to get attached to Sandy and whatever this infrastructure is up the ladder, some of the lower level guys. And then you start to get into some of the twists and turns where, Amar's supposed to get married. He ended up missing the wedding because the guy Sandy catches, they basically light him on fire. Great editing on that scene, by the way. It was just all beautifully done. And, if this was a Hollywood movie, they would have really mishandled all this. And I admit, usually I'm critical of a film where it has these little side jaunts that don't give us much, but Amar had kept it quiet about what his job was, and she respected that. She had a very interesting dynamic as his fiance and then wife, because he just says, well, then we'll just get married now. She's like, no, you're thinking more in terms of like ceremonial. He's like, no. He calls his buds and they have a party, and it's a little montage. And then they cut to the next morning where they've had their night together, and she's picking up on pieces that he's doing something. Like, she obviously knows he's in some sort of intelligence and police work or something. And yet she's not like freaking out. She makes a little comment about it. Must be like a crime novel or something, right? And then it hits him like, wait a minute. So Conan was in this place, like on his computer, reading a book, but there was like a blind spot for him to be tracked and traced and whatever. And he wasn't really in this brothel. He was doing this. And so Amar is really, it's just really, really good stuff. I have to be honest. I'm just very, very impressed. There's like the film has a ton of moments that build all up to this. And of course, when they finally catch these guys that are murdering people, this group that's anti the system, and they're going to bring the whole thing down. They've done these videos and whatever. The one guy they catch is Bejoy, which is like the police officer in the last movie. He's in Kaithi. He's like this dude that had the arm in a sling. I'm like, what's going on? And Narain is, by the way, Narain is way better as Bejoy in this. Like, he seems much more relaxed. He's come into this character, and without a beat, he's talking about how, yeah, I did my part. We thought we were doing right, and guess what? They still came and they murdered my family right in front of me. I have nothing to lose. And he echoes this sentiment that's brought up again later. One man's revolution is another man's terrorism. And at this point, Amar's not having it. But Bejoy he's just fantastic. He's ready to die if he needs to, right? Anyway, so they are figuring out who the next target is. Sandy's on the hunt. He's super cool, man. He's super suave. When he's got to fight somebody, he has this little drug thing that he does in his mouth, and he's all quirky and weird. It's just really, really good stuff. And you end up with this like culmination of this scene at this wedding where all this food montage and things like that are setting up where everyone's coming together, right? You have Sandy there, this group that's coming in to kill people, and a Mars team that's kind of like undercover, but also there. And, there are zoom ins on Sandy that are great, who's like, no, it's okay. We're going to be fine. And there's a line about like, it's my goat. The goat is mine to slaughter, things like that. Just great pieces. I don't know how well those are in their original language, but for me, it works really, really great. Anyway, so it culminates with this big chase scene, and then it's revealed, of course, the mask guy pulls off, and it's Karnan, which is basically Vikram. Vikram is basically alive. And the theme music, Sandy has theme music, Vikram's got theme music, cool stuff. And Vikram basically has this big interaction with him and basically just says, well, shall we begin? Drops the phone, and the scene cuts to, quote, intermission. And I'm like, man, it's like Tarantino, right? And then it starts off with not really slow, but it just gives you a little bit of that connection of Sandy is talking to the big guy. His name is Rolex. Amar is presenting the information to the other cops and the black squad and all that. He's talking about, well, Vikram dates back to the 80s, and he was the original Black Ops guy. They all died because this thing went sideways and they were all killed. But these people that are dying are all tied to Vikram's son, and Vikram Karnan is trying to protect his grandson. So it's all sort of out there. And Amar's like, I don't want any part of any of this nonsense, right? But Vikram's figured out stuff, man. Karnan's, he's played everybody. Bejoy is just smiling from their little jails, knowing Vikram's coming, man. And he goes total John Wick on these people. Bejoy does too. And Sandy is terrified of this Rolex guy. And this is when we start to figure out like who's who. So you have Sandy on one side. You end up with the police chief, I guess, Jose. I don't understand why he's named Jose. Jose is a terrible name for this character, by the way. I'm sorry, guys. With our use of language, Hispanic, he's a Hispanic name, so it was very distracting. I'm supposed to call this guy Jose, and I wasn't even sure that was his real name. I had to actually pull up Wikipedia or whatever to make sure, like his name is supposed to be Jose. I was like, what on earth is going on? Anyway, and you have this scene where Vikram is like explaining all the details, so we're all catching up on, the drug war, his motivation. It's more of a societal thing. It's like if we can bring down the empire, not one person, not kill Sandy, not just do one thing, but no, this is a $1 trillion drug deal that's been confiscated. We've disrupted everything. They're killing each other, and Bejoy got caught up in it. Vikram's son got caught up in it, and now Amar's wife gets caught up in it, because Sandy's figured that out too. Jose is a scumbag, and everyone's figured it out. There's this big attack on where Vikram's real family is. And it turns out some of these agents that everybody thought was dead, they're not dead. We get a little quick shot of the maid. I guess I don't know the term, guys over there, but we would call her like a maid. And she sticks the mom in the panic room, and she's kicking butt. Her name is Tina. She's getting people with forks, man. She got forks like it was freaking. They eventually overpower her, right? There's so many of them. And Amar finds the dead wife, and he just basically is like, done. He's totally on board with Vikram in the mission, just like Bejoy. So Vikram has like another super soldier on his side in all of this, right? So when they attack the baby, there's this great scene because Vikram's like trying to kill them all, but keep them quiet so they don't wake the baby. So it's like, shh. And he sticks things in their mouth as he kills them so they don't make noise. And you're like, what is happening? It's freaking great. Anyway, long story short, the last dude falls to a table, wakes up the baby, which of course just makes things worse. So there's great stuff. He has to go back in for there's like a scene where he has to go back in for the baby bottle. There's again cool throwdown, John Wick, 80s, 90s action stuff. Good music. There's a great fight scene when Omar faces off with Jose, because he knows Jose is the one that's been a mole the whole time. So people have died because of this guy. And Jose is bigger than him, right? Bigger dude. So it's a harder fight. Omar looks like he might lose, but the knife goes in Jose's side, and Jose starts to try to pull it out, but it breaks off. But Amar kicks it in deep into his belly, and I was like, why has that scene not been done before? Brilliant. Lokesh brings stuff to the table. I'm enjoying it. So the climax of the film is about this shipment, and basically like the tracker that was turned off is turned back on. Everybody knows where they're all going. It's all coming together. And it's revealed like you have two other agents that are not really dead working with Vikram. Upili, I think, is one, and Lawrence. We get these extremes, by the way. It's really kind of weird for us. We get these extremes with a name like Upili, and then you have Larry. It's like, what on earth? It's not consistent. But they were around this whole time. The gym guy was really this agent. The cab driver was really this agent. So Vikram is connected to everything, manipulating everything, and really in control of a lot of this. There's a quick shot, but they basically have been working on I don't know how they got it, but they hint that they somehow confiscated it or took it, and they have this an actual cannon that shoots cannonballs, and they also have this like machine gun, Browning machine gun. So this big battle's happening. Some of those agents die. It's all very Tarantino with how this happens, with the graphics showing, they were old Black Ops and they're this, and it's all great, man. It's all great. The fight goes sideways at times. Sandy and Vikram face off, and Sandy is losing dramatically, and then he takes that drug thing that he's been doing, so he's super powered now. And the little kid is rescued from some of this chaos, but we don't think he's going to live. Like, he stops breathing. It was a little distracting to see it take so long to give him CPR. I mean, he basically would have been dead for quite a while. Too long, right? But, you got to go along. If you're going to have superhero type stuff, you're just going to go along with some of those details, or you just don't even bother watching a film that's as much fun. But it's all superhero nonsense, fighting, kicking, whatever. It's completely fantastic. A great run, a great ride. Just had a ball watching this film. Then, of course, it sort of fast forwards, because they do get Sandy. Which, by the way, I skipped the part where Anwar had rigged up where these drugs are. Basically like Sandy's fortress. And they're like, well, how will we know the detonator will go off? Well, he rigged it up off the toilet chain. So the only dude that's left inside, he was on the can, and it was like Sandy's brother. And they're like, where is he? He's in the can. And of course, it's like, don't come out, don't touch anything. Well, what's he do? He tries to flush the toilet, and he blows the place up, and it collapses on itself. Anyway, so I'm sorry. So a week ahead. So they flash forward a week ahead. Obviously, everything is settled. The shipment's gone. It's been destroyed. Everything's chaos. The characters from Kaithi now are merged with the Vikram characters. So Anbu and Adakalam, the two masterminds, the two brothers from Kaithi, are there telling Rolex about what's happened. Right? They know where Anwar is. They see this quick shot of him at the wife's tombstone. He's going to put the black paint on to be part of Vikram's thing. We see Dealey's name being explained, like he's part of the problem. And you have a cut to where the daughter is and Kamachi from that movie. And then, of course, they explain Vikram. I guess he's got him safe in San Francisco. Anyway, Rolex is like introduced in this last moment. And they have this guy. Basically, it's just like this poor dude standing too close. He grabs him. He's got his meat cleaver. He grabs this guy, and they cut. There's just blood all over him when you pull off. His name is Soraya, is the actor. And when you cut, you see he didn't cut his arm off. He cut his head off. Dude's head is on the floor. So you see this guy. He licks the blood off. He wipes it on Anbu's shirt. He is like basically crazier than these crazy people. That's kind of where we're going. So it all culminates to another film as more conflict. But the twist that ends the movie, oh my gosh, it's so freaking great, is they all are departing, and you have these quick shots, and you see Vikram is there amongst. He knows everything. He knows what's going on before they know what's going on. He is totally down with everything. So I have to be honest. There were times where I was like, gosh, it's a little slow. I'm getting a little, it's a little convoluted and complicated, but man, it was so good to see payoffs, all these setups having payoffs, all these little breadcrumbs meaning something. I'm sure I might have missed something, but I don't know of anything off the top of my head or that mattered that was left on the table or they didn't try to address. So anyway, tell me what you think. I love your recommendations. I did enjoy this. I look forward to Vikram 2, whatever the next Lokesh film in this universe is. I look forward to it. So feel free to hit me up with all that kind of stuff. I'm Pops. Thank you so much for watching.